All right. Well, it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Actually, it is 5 o'clock where I'm at. So that means it's the official start time. I know that our guest tonight, Dr. Ed, he is like rubbing his eyes trying to catch up with time travel. We're going to learn more about that. But this is the Redox 5 weekly webcast. My name is Lee Osler. I am in the state of Washington on the U.S. Pacific coast. And we welcome you. We excuse Jim and Ann Glenn tonight, who are with family, and Dr. Maureen Hayes, who's also away with family tonight. We've got a lot of family going on tonight. But I am joined tonight with by Dr. Ray Dixon, who is in Phuket, Thailand. He claims that he did not suffer any ill effects from the earthquake that happened just today there in Thailand and Myanmar. So we're glad for that, and our hearts and our thoughts go out to all those in Thailand whom we know or don't know that they will get past this earthquake today, and so they're on our thoughts today. We're glad you're safe down south in Phuket, Dr. Ray. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have as our guest tonight Dr. Ed De La Reyes. He is a physician out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, if I remember right. But right now he is sitting in San Francisco, having just spent quite a number of days in the Philippines working with his friends and associates there. And so we're going to get a full report of that. Before we launch in, though, and get started here, I'd like to make sure that everybody understands our disclaimer, our disclosure. We are each independent associates working with and in conjunction with a company named ASEA Global. They are an international company. We're in 35 countries now around the world. We are regulated by FDA rules and regulations. That means that we do not make any claims for diagnosing, preventing, or curing diseases. This is a cellular health company that improves cellular function, and we're going to spend some time and drill into that tonight and get to know the inner workings of Dr. Ed's inner mind, because he's a brilliant physician who's, how many boards do you have, Dr. DeLayes?
Pediatric anesthesia and pain management.
Okay, so he that means he walks circles around most other people. So we love that. But I'd like to have you come on, Ed, and number one, introduce yourself, and maybe just give a quick account of kind of how you found out about ASEA. Like, why is this meaningful? Where did this come from in your life? If you could give us a synopsis of that, and then we'll come back over that and we'll drill into some of that as well as find out what you're doing right now.
Okay. Let me share. Can I share slides? I just have 2 slides to show why and how and why I'm here talking to everybody, and at the same time how I got started with this one. And
have that ability from your side, Dr. Ed?
I think so. Let me see if I could. Can you see that?
Yep, we can see that. Go ahead.
Uh-huh. Well, in the first place, I think I'm Ed De La Reyes. I migrated to the U.S. in 1983. Since then, I became licensed physician to practice medicine in the U.S. I went into 2 residencies, pediatric and chronic pain management. And so why I came to ASEA, it's by accident, really. I had a condition that needed some fixing medically, and then it didn't do too well, and I became a patient of my own specialty. And I lost my health, and I lost my mental health also. Let me read this statement to everybody who's listening and why you're here. And I would like to emphasize why I spent a lot of time talking about health these days is because of this very important thing. Let me just read it to you, that we could have 1,000 problems in life until you have a health problem. And then you only have one problem. Everything else, money, relationships, stress, fades away in the shadow of it. Nothing else matters when your body or mind is screaming for help. Health is not just something you have. it's everything. It's the ability to wake up and feel alive, to move freely, to laugh without pain, to breathe without struggle. But if we take it for granted, which I did, until it's gone, we don't truly understand how precious it is. When your health is compromised, every little thing becomes harder. Dreams get put on hold, happiness feels distant, and life's color starts to fade. That's why taking care of ourselves is not a luxury. It's an act of love, a gift to your future self, because when you're healthy, you can face anything. Without it, even the smallest battles feel impossible. Don't wait to lose it to realize its value. Treasure it now while you still can. I like this statement and I stand by it because I am a living testimony of losing my health. And this next slide is this is me in 2015.
They normally deliver within like 24 hours. So I'm not, like, I wanted to give you the sheet so you can look at it, but you don't have to order it. Like, probably do it tomorrow. We are gonna head out to
What's significant about this is that I stayed this way for almost 2 years, using that walker and just to move me around. I thought this was just a few days after I had my procedure, but it almost took almost 2 years to have it unknown. So I became a patient of my own specialty. I'm interventional pain management. I was given 5 modalities, really, medications to take, and which I myself has been prescribing for almost 30 years. And then, but that did not help. I lost my physical health. I could not sleep at night. I was on 3 controlled substances, and every hour, this discomfort in my back would wake me up. Let's just stop this slide.
That's an amazing story. You know, that just is riveting. And again, I'll emphasize what we said earlier. We're not preventing, treating, curing, but there's a reason why you found what we have. And I'm anxious for you to maybe peel the layer a little bit back on that one.
Yes. So, so once I lost it, and then it followed that I lost my mental health. I was opposing another back procedure to be done on me. They put steel rods, steel plates, and steel metal screws in my back, and then and they want to redo it. So I just refused it in the first place. I was even questioning the first one, but the second one, no, I'm not going to do it until I lost my mental health. I could not think well. For me at that time, I was just in agony that if you give me a knife, I would do it myself, open my back, and let this monster out of it. So I submitted to this. My surgeon is a busy surgeon. He travels around the world to do some operations, and so it took 2.5 months for me to have a schedule to be done. So in this time, and in that period of time that I was waiting, I was introduced to redox signaling molecules, and it was introduced to me by my brother-in-law, and I really didn't care about it. I just was just respectful to him, and I would just like to take it because he's sharing it to me, and then didn't even ask what is this. So I said, okay, if this is safe, this family that is sharing it, I just want it to be over. To my surprise, though, in taking it, drinking it, and then applying the gel to my back, is I have the best sleep I ever had. So for almost 2 years, I could hardly sleep straight at nighttime. Every hour, this wakes me up, this wakes me up, this discomfort. But for that very first day, I had a 4 hour straight sleep, and that was amazing. I had my full energy back in just that 4 hours time. I was ready to do things, and I was surprised, and that really was still vivid to me until now, remembering that. But the good thing is that every day after that, continuing to drink and applying this gel, my sleep got better and better and better, and my pain levels got better and better and better. So, in short, I was a life that was really changed, a life that was relieved and revived. But I was still skeptical from saying that I don't believe in this one. It will never work. 150% sure that it will not work. Now to say that, oh, thank the Lord, that this was a placebo effect, and I got some relief. Then I shared it to my mom, a 90-year-old mom who has a brain issue that she could no longer speak, and so I let her try so that she could just have a good sleep and then a good energy. That's all I wanted for her to have. In 2 weeks' time of taking this, her speech came back, and that really confused me. That I was surprised in that one. I cannot explain it in my own traditional knowledge of medicine. So I did my research, and that research turned out to finding out there's hundreds of thousands of articles already about redox signaling molecules. And then the best thing is that I was introduced to the medical atomic physicist that guided me of all the articles that he has read before stabilizing these molecules. And so after that, I was just enthusiastic. I was just ready to share this to the world just because of my experiences. Not only did myself and my mom had a great experience, my wife had a great experience, my granddaughter experiences, and thousands of people now that I've shared this with have great experiences with this.
So in that time, you had four close family members
Yes,
that had remarkable. It's like you're hitting 4 out of 4,
yes.
right? That's incredible. So and during that time, you had not yet. I'm kind of filling in the blank here in my mind. You had not yet submitted to the second procedure.
No. Okay. What happened is,
This was in that between time, right?
yes, it wasn't that time. I have 2.5 months using this. I waited a few days and I was functioning well. I was able to wean off myself from the walker that I was using. I also was able to wean off myself from the 5 medications that I was taking. 3 of those are controlled. And I was just a life that was changed. I was just celebrating, and so that surgery never happened, and I only have one, and I'm really glad that I have one. And then I recovered, although this steel rods would give me problems because it's a foreign body in my body, and that always creates some reactions. But I'm not on any medication to take care of it. I am only on redox signaling molecules by drinking, and then a gel applying it. And now we have this new focus redox gold that really takes care of this discomfort way much better than the Renew 28.
But Dr. Ray, you just spent a week or so with Dr. Ed in the Philippines. And so you were probably sitting there watching him do whatever he's doing, running in circles around everybody. What are your observations? And
Well, the first comment I'll make is congratulations. I think it's a revelation, quite frankly. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. And from my background as a chiropractor, you can imagine I've also, Dr. Ed and Lee, seen a lot of back issues and a lot of failed surgeries. I've seen some successful ones too, to be fair, but I've certainly seen a lot of failed ones and a lot of pain and suffering. So, and that particular video that Ed just played, I've just seen that for the first time with you, Lee, because it didn't play on the screen in Manila when we were together last week. So it is great. When I say it's great to see it, it's not nice to see the suffering, but it certainly evidentially demonstrates the seriousness of what was going on there. And 2 years with a walker, any physician from any background, whether you're a dentist or an MD or a chiropractor or a naturopath, it's not a good sign for the future. So that whole future and that future self that Dr. Ed now refers to in his writings there, in terms of consider your future self. Sometimes you can get lucky, and sometimes the great Lord up there can point you in the right direction. Consider, everyone, this was deemed to be something that would not work in Dr. Ed's eyes, and I fully understand that. I didn't think it would either. It was deemed to be placebo even when he got that very first result, and just thank God for it, because he couldn't understand this. And this is the great revelation, I think, for all of us. It is so new, and it's the only redox signaling supplement in the world, and pretty much no one knows. So whenever you are sharing it, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get inevitable skepticism. Yes, I did see Ed scooting around in Manila. I was in Manila when we presented together. Dr. Ed had been elsewhere in Cebu and other parts of the Philippines. So he'd had a busy schedule when I was with him. I was with him at the end of his journey in the Philippines. I think it was more than a month or so, Ed. And he was soon, in fact, 2 days later, he was flying back to Kentucky, where he is now. So it was great to have actually met him physically, because we've always interacted via these mediums. So congratulations, great story.
Thank you, Ray.
So let's maybe pause right here, and let's pretend like there's somebody watching, listening in here that doesn't understand what we're talking about. This sounds probably too good to be true. Sounds like magic. I don't know, voodoo. Because stuff like this just doesn't normally happen. That's why you were so taken back by it. Here's a triple boarded physician trained in this very area, specialty, who couldn't wrap your head or your proverbially your back around this, right? And you couldn't get this underneath you because it didn't have any legs yet for you. So could you maybe just kind of start, if you met somebody, not necessarily on an elevator, with that quick a thing, but who said, well, Dr. Ed, explain what this really is. How does it work? What is redox signaling? What would you say?
I would say try it first, because explaining it is going to be it's easier to let them feel it, especially with the gel, especially with a condition like mine, than explaining it to them, especially physicians. You try to explain things like this one, and I know there's a lot more numbers of physicians hearing this now than we did before, but still not a lot. Not most of them still don't know about it. And to explain it to them, it's just, quickly just say, hey, try this one. I always use my story. I have personal experience with this. This is my condition, and I put it in, and this is the only one that revived me. Not my medications that I was trained to write and do this, and that would be, if they asked, then of course I would explain in a very short way that these are redox signaling molecules. Have you heard about that? And this is produced by our own mitochondrium when that produces energy. And that's of course a basic knowledge from anybody in the healthcare profession, if this person happens to be in that, and explaining that these are the same molecules that's produced in the mitochondrium when it produces energy, ATP, as what we normally learn, that by eating carbohydrates, proteins, and fatty acids, these are all converted to ATP, and then once that's produced, redox signaling molecules also is produced. So, and this is foundational to the functionality of the cells, especially cellular repair. This detects any abnormal cells, like inflammatory cells are abnormal cells, and it will initiate signaling through the neighboring cells that there are abnormal cells that needed to be repaired or needed to be replenished. That's it. I think that's too long, Elaine. We already reached our floor in an elevator.
Well, I don't know. Dr. Ray and myself, we could sit for 5 hours and we could unpack everything you just said, and we'd have saliva running down our chins because we just salivate over this stuff. But that's why it's important, to find a way. And most of us who are, professionally trained in health field, we sometimes trip over this because we were trained to understand mechanism of action. And because if you don't understand mechanism of action, you can't prescribe. It's really difficult to make recommendations for procedures and, on and so forth. Dr. Ray, let me ask you a question. I know I've heard you in the past say that you, I don't know the number, but you have dozens, if not hundreds, of things that you have used over the decades that you've been in practice, in a professional way, and maybe even with your neighbors and family. But you've used them, and so we come out with this, and it's like, what makes this different than everything, or not better? I want to say better, but what makes it different than all the things you were professionally trained, to utilize in your chiropractic and naturopathic practice? I'm assuming you did stuff that worked, quote unquote, and you wouldn't be doing it, up to that point. And so all of a sudden, you're now tripping over something new, right? Go dive into that for us, if you would.
Well, the first comment is it's the universality of the product. It's every single cell, and the way I put it is running on redox. So redox signaling molecules are at the interface, as you and I well know, of energy and matter. They're involved in signaling damage regarding everything. As Dr. Ed said, they're involved in signaling repair of any damage. They don't care what the name of that disease process is. They're labels that we put on things. So it was once I understood the universality, I could make sense of why it worked across the spectrum and helped in so many different ways, extraordinary ways, and so frequently. That was a game changer for me. In the naturopathic world, and I'll come to the chiropractic in a minute, herbal medicines, homeopathics have what you said, mechanisms of actions based on what's in them. So it's very mechanistic. It's really not dissimilar from the mechanisms of how drugs work, except they're not drugs. They're natural compounded products by Mother Nature, and a multitude of them. That's always, they're not reductionists. There's a multitude of things contained within a herb, the same as a food. Chiropractically, of course, removing subluxations is inevitably going to not just relieve discomfort in terms of joints and the spine. It's going to help innate intelligence through the nervous system communication with cells, because you've got the brain, spinal cord, everything goes into the brain and out from the brain everywhere, including your organs, not just musculoskeletal, via that spine. But again, if you look at neurology, the nerves at varying levels of the spine affect varying things. It's not universal. This was a big, big factor for me. And that's why I'd look my life for a holy grail, as I call it, in the natural healing realms, something that would profoundly influence everything at every level. I never found that. In fact, I believed at the end of my career, toward the end of my career, where I was retiring from Melbourne, Australia to live in Phuket, I pretty much had given up on that dream. I didn't think there was such a product or such an entity. That all changed with the discovery of nitric oxide in 1998. Now, I wasn't aware of that change then. I wasn't aware of a redox signaling molecule spectrum product. There's more than one. I wasn't aware of a SEER. And I certainly had no idea of the power of the redoxone regulating your entire genome. That all came with my introduction in 2018 to a SEER. I'm the opposite of Ed. I didn't have a health issue. I shouldn't say this, but I almost wish I did, because it's easier to share when you've got a great story like Ed's. My story was I was 62 at the time, 69 now, felt great, slept well, had no pain anywhere. So I can take a sea of Redox and expect it to keep me well, which is exactly what I do. But I can't say, what it did for me in that obvious moment in time because I was well. May I just comment, though, what Ed said, less is more, is very true. When you're communicating this, one of the biggest problems is we try to communicate too much. Listen more and answer more, and only go into mitochondria and Krebs cycles and many different redox molecules if you're interacting with medical health professionals that want to know more about that. Results talk and speak far, far louder than anything else. And then you'll get their attention and they'll want to do and dive into the science as much as it suits that individual based on their background.
I think that's what Dr. Ed was saying was, if you speak less, and the first thing he would do is just say, just try it. Because
Absolutely.
once you believe, observe, have firsthand information, either in yourself, in my case, it was my wife at the time, then you're going, well, I don't understand it all, but you can't doubt that its effects, right? And so then so you mentioned earlier, Ed, that the gels, you said you talked about two of them, and the newest one is the Redox Gold. Don't you wish you'd have had that a few years ago? My word. Tell us, I'm confident, maybe I'm speaking out of the box, but I'm confident that you're even now you're utilizing that as at least as a maintenance thing. But could you maybe launch into that and just what we have? Redox Gold is a new product. This has been out for a month or so. Tell us about that.
As a comparison, of course, I got revived when I was using the water. I was drinking it at first. I was just drinking it two ounce twice a day, and then applying the Renew 28 gel 4 times a day. That took my discomfort down from a level of 8 down to a 6, and I was that for a person that lost my physical health and really lost my mental health, because the only thing that I could think is how can I function for that day? How can I stand? How can I walk? And what are the things that I'm doing? And then now the discomfort level is down to a 2. I was happy, and with just that level of going down, I was able to get off the walker. I was able to get off of these medications, and I was already happy. But until I saw that some people can drink this thing a bottle a day, then that changed my mind and increased my dose. And I found out that 6 can go down to 0. And it was pretty significant in that. Of course, you have this instrumentation in your back, and that would always irritate you. So I always have a level of 4 to 6, and then but on dosing, on mega dosing these things, it could go down to 0. Now my normal self is about 4 to 6, and so I function that way very very well. And then I was introduced to this gold. Yes, that's 2 ounces, and I started first with twice a day in that one, and then I increased it to 2 of those twice a day. And then when I have exacerbations of this discomfort level, I would make it 2 of those 3 times a day, and then apply, of course, the Renew as much as every hour if it's need be. If my back was challenged, like doing a lot of things, because after retiring in 2017 and not able to work, and now I'm back and doing, just helping my colleagues and doing the regular things I do with anesthesia, and sometimes this work can challenge me, and then and it would acutely exacerbate this discomfort level. Then I would increase the dose and I would apply the Renew 28 as often as I can. But with the introduction of gold, this is really significant because it brings down my level of discomfort to zero. So the first time that I did was use this, and then I was just observing it. And after 4 hours, the discomfort came back. The zero coming back, and I applied it again. Then on the first day, I was applying it at every 4 hours time. The second day, still PRN, just observing when it comes back. So I applied, and then the second day it was coming back within 6 to 8 hours. On the third day, it was coming back within 12 hours time.
You're
And now,
talking about the gold here, right?
yes, I'm
Yeah.
Okay,
talking about the gold.
just to be clear.
Yes, and then the Renew 28 was I was applying it 4 times a day, and that's just it. But this one, I applied it and I wait until when the because it goes down to zero, and then and I wait until when it comes back. And the first day I was doing it, this was every 4 to 6 hours. The second day it was 6 to 8 hours. The third day it was 12 hours, and then I'm just applying it whenever I have this discomfort. And that is a significant thing about this one. And when you don't have any discomfort, you forget things. You don't apply it. You're not applying it. In the middle of it, I would toast and turn, and I just observed, "Well, I'm not having a good sleep here," and I could feel that, oh, I got discomfort in the back. I just put that one, and absolutely in just a few minutes, I would just doze. I would just have great sleep because I just applied it. So I have it in my bedside. I have it always in my bag. When I was just in the Philippines for 6 weeks, and there's no day that I don't do things. So it was a pretty busy visit to the Philippines. I did 5 live presentations there in different islands, and the last one, which was the final one, was the great one with, of course, with Dr. Ray. And I didn't want to park the car there. It's just so traffic and everything, so I commute, and so we run, and it's a busy one. I carry a backpack that has my computer, so challenged with that kind of weight. But I just get really relief with the Redox Gold that I use. Pretty effective.
So
Then
does it also help you with like range of motion and the kind of
definitely.
activities of daily living and stretching? Does that have any impact there?
It helps you that one. In fact, the first thing that we did there was we did the surgical mission. I arrived February 13, and then the very next day were off for surgical mission, and I met the chief of surgery, who's going to do a lot of surgeries. He said he can't join it. He's going to be there, but both shoulders are not able to make it. So with that, I just told him I have something that I might help you, and this was actually the first time I used it in the Philippines, and with this physician, and then I just applied on both. There were three legs of the things, 1 week each, and then after that, he's very common. He was able to raise both shoulders. He was able to do surgeries on the first day and up to the last day. And we had 3 weeks of doing surgical missions, and he was out there. Of course, I have a gift for him. He was my mentor in surgical missions, and that gold was my gift. And he was very, very appreciative. So he's trying to see whether it's coming to the Philippines. And that I said, April 1st, you're going to get it. But that was the most significant thing about it. And in all the things that I've applied it and used it, 100% of the time it worked. And then I visited my classmate in med school. She is a pediatric cardiologist, just retired, had both knees replaced, and already been 3 weeks into the surgery. She's still in the hospital. And then I visited her. She said it's a slow recovery. She can't sleep, and so I said, okay, I have these things applied. For the first time, she had a great sleep after just one application of that, because I told her at nighttime just apply this on both knees. She had a good sleep. In the morning, she forgot her pain medications, and she also forgot to apply this gold. And why is that? Because she didn't have pain. She didn't have discomfort. And so that was significant. And for her, and she lives in a different island. And the very next 2 days after I visited her, she was able to get out of the hospital, able to fly the plane, able to ride on the plane, and then go back to her place. So that is pretty significant. Asking where she could get these things, and luckily I got some. I left 4 to her, and she was very thankful that came in. So it is pretty significant. My thought about it is that when you apply Renew 28, it worked on me. That was my kind of my saving thing when it had. But when they had the second generations, it is kind of it's like a full amount of redox molecules just attacking your inflamed cells. The Renew 28 is you put it and it's absorbed into the cells and it goes all over. It goes to anywhere that it's needed. So it's absorbed, it's passed on from cell to cell in a cascading way, and it goes into your brain, it goes into your heart, it goes into all the things where it is. But this one, it's just like imprisoned in the inflamed tissues that you have. It's concentrated. Most of the redox molecules is not escaping. It's just working on the inflamed cells, which is really causing the discomfort that you have. So, and if this is being passed from one cell to another in the speed of light, that's why it works in that way. In me, at first, in my neck it was 5 minutes. In my lower back it was 10 minutes, and in my surgeon's things it was in seconds that he could lift it up and raise the arm. Pretty significant things, and I'm pretty excited about seeing people that are in discomfort, because you have a solution. You have something that you can brag on, and then you can say it works. Just apply that one, and it works. And this discomfort is the most common disabling things for everybody. We don't really care about our health until a discomfort comes in.
Now that's a major point that you've made right up front. I love that statement, because those of us like myself and Dr. Ray, we're like, who cares? We're pretty healthy to start with, but then we're surrounded by all these people, all these stories, and it's like you can see, you wind, because if you're not, you wind up being their caretaker. And so, Dr. Ray, you were going to say something a minute ago, so chime in.
Well, that laser focusing is because, if I can just elaborate as simply as I can on the difference between gold and Renew a little further to what Ed said. Yeah, the Renew plays the spectrum. It's the same spectrum of redox molecules that are in the redox liquid supplement. And it, as our friend Hunter Dean says, it plays all the keys on the piano, but it's not specifically avenuing one genetic pathway. Now, a lot of that research that went down in Bath University and Western Sydney University was on one particular messenger, as you well know, Lee and Ed, and that was NRF2. Now, NRF2 was being looked at because of its profound effects on increasing glutathione levels, which then reduce inflammation and whatever discomfort goes with that. I always like to say, when we teach about pain has 5 cardinal signs, and that is redness, heat, swelling, pain, and potential loss of function. They're the actual 5 cardinal signs of inflammation itself. So if you can manage that inflammatory pathway and reduce it, you will affect all of those cardinal consequences, including the discomfort consequence. What happened with this formula is they found a way to tweak the redox molecules. Beyond this, I don't know. I only know what I'm told. It's patented and heavily protected, with intellectual property rights, but they got the ratios different, and they got the numbers different, and they got a catalyst. And the catalyst simply drives it further. There's your laser focusing. It drives the effect on NRF2 up to 160% and potentially glutathione up to 180%. This is massive. I don't know what number you put on that, on its increased efficacy on discomfort and an area you're applying it to. I kind of just pull a figure out, say 10 times. I believe it's a lot more than that. That's the power of Redox Gold. And, you know, I never performed as much as perhaps I should in demonstrations in the past, the 3 times in 5 minutes of Renew 28. I did do it, but not now. I do it every time with gold. And there's a reason. Its effects are so profound and so quick. I had 2 of those rotator cuff frozen shoulder issues in a room with me in the Philippines. Both improved dramatically in front of my eyes after 1 application. By the time they had the second application, it was like they were whistling Dixie. I arrived back, if I can just share this one quickly, Lee. I arrived back in Phuket. It's funny how you go around the world to share and then you get someone right in your backyard. I turned up to have breakfast at a local cafe owned by Vicky, who's Greek background. And she said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here, Dr. Ray." She shows me her thumb, which is 3 to 4 times the size of the other thumb. 2-3 days earlier, she'd sprained it mildly, moving a heavy umbrella. One of the well-meaning workers thought they could fix that, so they gave it a good old yank, thinking they're going to align it. Well, you can imagine what that will do to a sprained thumb. So the next day, she was in agony. She couldn't sleep. She'd been up all night. This is when I saw her. She'd been up all night, and she was about to go to the hospital. And I said, "No, you don't need to do that." I just obviously had to make sure it wasn't fractured. But it appeared it wasn't. So I applied the gold. And I'm just gently rubbing this around the thumb as I'm explaining it to her. Now, I know this lady, but I'd actually never discussed a sear with her before. So I'm applying that gel. And then after about 5 minutes, after explaining, I said, "How's it feeling now?" And the before, by the way, was a 9. She said, "Oh, it's about 5, 6. It's a lot better, thanks." And, of course, she was moving it. Before that, she couldn't even put the arm down. Just putting the arm down with that extra blood flow, she was in agony. She would hold the arm up here, and she had a thumb splint, which she'd just taken off. So I then applied it a second time. Within another 5 minutes, that was down to 1 or 0. I see her every day now. It's 3 days, and every day I'll see, "How's it going?" "Oh, it's fine." So the swelling obviously takes time to recover. There is a healing journey, of course, everyone. Please remember that. So you still got to heal, but it's a non-issue now. It's just healing time. So this is a wonderful thing, a wonderful thing.
One of the questions in the chat was about why does this discomfort keep coming back? I think that's a great question. And we could take that one multiple levels deep, but we'll try and keep it straight. I think it's self-evident that there's multiple reasons why people have discomfort. There's structural in muscles and ligaments and tendons and injuries, wounds, systemic inflammatory burdens that are elevated, just generally speaking. There's just a lot of reasons. And so we have this concept, especially where we're now got 1.0 and 2.0. We've got the basic, systemic plays the whole keyboard idea of ASEA redox signaling molecules in the blue bottle. And then we have this kind of newest edition of Redox Gold, which potentiates or enhances or catalyzes, some people use that word. I like the word potentiate. It enhances the activity level of the switches. The cells have switches in them that turn things on and off. And when we say things, we're talking about gene expression. They start and stop how the DNA responds to the environmental or the conditions within the cell and around the cell. And so the whole concept of redox signaling is that there are signaling proteins that are activated when certain conditions in the cell exist so that the cell can survive. And so we can categorically think of these responses, or these genes that are responding, as survival and longevity genes. And so as a backdrop or a background to this whole thing, what we want is to be resilient. We want to have the capability of being able to respond to the environmental inflammatory load, the oxidation load, all the things that are going on, the injuries. And so with Redox 2.0, with the release of Redox Gold, we have an enhanced ability to manage or regulate those gene pathways. We call them pathway genes that are associated with the DNA that tells the DNA what to do in response to whatever it is that's occurring. Now, the fact that we talk about, well, why does discomfort come back, aside from the self-evident reasons, perhaps, why we've spent, many years, if not decades, with that water flowing under the bridge, and then suddenly we think we can, apply this magic gel, and it's like it's all better. And it's like, well, there's two words that really come to mind right now, and that is, this is about relief and recovery. And so there's kind of a dual mission there. There's the relief. We've spent most of our time in the last 50 minutes talking about the relief side. And the reason why is we are able to downregulate the pathway genes that are responsible for the inflammatory response, which is almost always universally associated with discomfort. We use that word on purpose. We could use the P word. We don't, in order to stay compliant, but you can translate that in your own mind when we use that word. But that's what we're talking about. The recovery side is that when, and this is my I think somewhat informed opinion, is that there is a cumulative and a latent effect with these molecules. And so when we use them topically and they absorb in, even though we're putting them on a certain location or spot, on the body, I think that there is some systemic benefit from that, and there's a cumulative benefit, meaning the regular use of this, especially in areas that are already inflamed or prone to inflame. I mean, like, for example, if you have swelling of the joints, there's an A word for that. But if you had that joint condition, it doesn't just disappear. You've already had remodeling of bone structures and tissues, and that doesn't really just go away. But the inflammatory response can be arrested and stopped if we can get the cell to think differently about what's going on in its environment. And to me, that's really kind of the magic sauce, of what we have in Redox Gold, is that we're targeting, as Dr. Ray said, we're specifically targeting some narrow pathway genes responsible for the inflammatory response. And believe me, I could take you, 2 miles deep on that one, just like the pyramids in Egypt. Now, there's a foundation underneath all of that explains the mechanisms. And so, anyway, I don't want to get too off into the weeds there, but to answer that question, it's relief and recovery. And if we continue using it and support it with the broad piano, with the broad spectrum use of the liquid, we want all of these redox sensitive pathways that are all sensitive to changes in oxidation and inflammation. We want them all working optimally. We want them resilient. We want them fit. We want them able, capable, response able, even if there's nothing going on. That's why Dr. Ray and I keep doing this, is like, I think I'm smart enough to know that I don't want to be sick in the future, right? I mean, I'd like to think I could live to 250, but, we'll see. Dr. Ray.
Can I just add, and then Ed I'm sure can put it in his terms, because the more we express it in our different ways, perhaps the more people we can reach. The short answer is there is so much damage that has occurred to some people that damage cannot be reversed to your 21 years of age. It just can't be done. You used a joint example, which we can continue with. Joints wear out. It's called degenerative joint disease. They narrow, they get spurs, and they hurt. And so, of course, when you're applying the gold in that situation, that is an irreversible situation. You cannot get a new joint, as an example. So what's happening, there's a few questions we can answer in this. What's happening is you're getting, first, that amount of NRF2 glutathione anti-inflammatory and consequential effects quiesces nerves. Nerve pain's called nociception. Those nerves signal the brain and they can upregulate or they can downregulate. And when you're getting those messaging through those switches that Dr. Lee said to the brain, they're downregulating the message very quickly because the brain's interpreting and those local nociceptors that things are a lot better. So that's the quiescing, the calming of the fire and the discomfort. Obviously, the underlying condition, if it's able to fully recover, and in the example of the lady I gave before who's got a sprained thumb, that could fully recover completely. And I expect it to, because that's not a permanent injury or damage to the thumb. So the relief and the recovery, you notice with Dr. Head, that's had some serious issues and surgery on his lumbar spine, on his lumbosacral spine. That can't be made back to 21 years of age again in his grand age of 50. Wink, wink. You can't reverse that to his youth. But obviously the Redox is able to put the fire out, give a considerable of improvement, as Dr. Lee said, in range of motion and his ability to do things. And he then manages that and has been able to do so with less and less to get down to zero. I mean, zero discomfort is extraordinary with a story like that and a history like that. So not all things can be made brand new.
Good. Let me say something about it since it's within my specialty. In our school of thought, when you have discomfort, you absolutely have inflammation. So in order to take the discomfort out, you have to take out the inflammation. In my own condition, I think somebody was asking why it comes back. Well, I have instrumentation, I have foreign body that would always cause reaction, and that would always cause inflammation. So, but to bring it down to zero is significant. The reason why I said it brought down to zero, because for years I've been taking the ASEA Redox, and I have that one. And then I was taking the gel, the Renew 28, but it's not enough though to bring down all the inflammatory cells. But so when I bring down these inflammatory cells to zero, and then I have relief to zero, but the stimulus to produce inflammatory cells is always there, and it keeps on producing. That's why before I didn't really have the complete recovery, because my levels go down to 4.6 and on occasion just to zero. But this one, I have long experience that it's more prolonged to zero with this gold. So that is how it is, that whatever causes the inflammation is the one that brings up the discomfort. And so if it is immune system related, then we have to deal with the immune system, not to create inflammatory processes. So when you eliminate that one, then it won't come back. But if it has the stimulus still to produce inflammation, it keeps it coming back. But I'm just happy that this can do. I wish I didn't have instrumentation, and I could absolutely feel the relief, and it won't come back for days and days. Even we have degeneration of the spine, that could be an immune system response that could bring about inflammation. But having us a recovery for the conditions that we have, and to have functionality without taking medications that would destroy our kidneys, our liver, and some other effects, and would bring us to functionality, is already a great thing for me. And absolutely, I'm elated with it. And it has no bad side effects. It has only good side effects. And one thing that I mentioned to almost everybody that I tell, that I was just using this because of the discomfort that I have, and it also took care of a cardiovascular issue that I have in myself, of an uncontrolled blood pressure issue. Was on 4 medications for that one, and now I'm only taking 1. And then I'll be 71 next month. And for us, with this kind of age, normally we'll have a bowl of cereal for our meds. I'm happy to report that every year I'm taking off medications, because there's actually recovery in these things. We used to, most of us would even tell you that, oh, your thing's permanent. You just have to take that for life. If you have a blood pressure issue, if you have this diabetes things, and your doctor would always say, you're just going to take that for life. But not anymore, though. I've seen a lot of people that has been able to be, that has recovery, and then was able to quit what they're taking. And I am a testimony for that one. And so mine was uncontrolled for 30 years, and for the first time, it got controlled. And then that's why I was able to take off the 3 medications that I was taking for that issue. So there is recovery. Why? Because we found a way that we can let the body really work by itself, let the body heal by itself. We're not intervening with altering the receptors by enhancing them or inhibiting their functions. We are actually just feeding on the normal functions of our own cells that was kind of stalled, that was kind of not able to move, not able to do the very functions that she can do, because this redox environment is in balanced form. So we just make it in a balanced form, and now we let it go. We let the cells do what it's supposed to do, and they heal, they repair, and they can do that because we have put back the inner doctor in us, which is the redox signaling molecules.
Well, Dr. Ed and Dr. Ray, Ray, go ahead. One last, we got just a couple minutes here.
Yeah, just someone did ask, why do we need the molecules if you make the molecules? So we perhaps should say why. Your peak production is based of your redox signaling molecules made internally, natively, is at puberty. So your mitochondrial density and efficiency to your body size, it peaks at puberty, which means 1% decline on average per year thereafter, 10% per decade. Now, these are approximations. Some people go down faster if you're unwell. If you're an unhealthy child, you already have a problem in the redoxome. But from puberty, all of us go downhill. It's part of why we age, and it's part of the underlying cause of all disease processes. So we are replenishing those molecules in a bioidentical way in this supplement, first time ever in human history. Back to you, Lee.
Well, thank you. This has been very informative. I do want to make one last swing at this disclaimer, because we've talked a lot, and there's been a lot of questions in the chat that maybe aren't privy to everybody who will be watching this later, or even currently, who we talk about some specific conditions. We do not claim to cure, prevent, or treat any disorder. What we do is we make cells work better. That is the upstream, as Dr. Ray said before. This is the foundational. This redox signaling is where energy meets matter. This is the upstream cause, the fountain. It's where the floodgate of everything downstream from that happens, and we're trying to get upstream to correct those things so that the body has the ability to heal itself. So we make that claim. We just want to make sure that everybody understands that. The other comment that I will make is people listening to this may be tempted to think, oh, I can just do, redox supplements and I can just stop taking my medications. And I would heavily dissuade anybody from considering doing that. You do that with those who you're working with, your health professionals, anybody that you're working with who's made those prescriptions. If your goal with them is to not need them and not use them eventually, you do that with their oversight, because bad things can happen if you just, there's a lot of layers to this, so be really careful and mindful about that. Any last words? We've got Dan Doyle coming on board. He'll pop in here in just a minute. We'll make him a host and he'll take over. Next week, a week from today, we will have Debbie Wetzler and Dan Hartley. You're going to want to be with us then. I spent an hour with Dan on the phone already, and he has an amazing story from the early days of when ASEA was founding, when the earliest research was occurring with the pharmaceutical companies that were taking a look at this to decide if this was going to go big pharma or not. He was around at that time, and so you're going to want to hear his story. We'll have our other hosts back next week. Again, thank you for joining with us. Dr. Ed, thank you. Get over your jet lag. I understand that blue bottle helps with that. And so we appreciate you being on as always. And Dr. Ray, thank you for being with us. We're glad you're safe. And again, we hope those who are experiencing that in your country, there in Thailand, are also safe. So thank you again, everybody. We'll wait for Dan to pop on. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll see you next week.